Hey everybody, if you're watching this video and you have not yet read every word typed here, and if you haven't looked at the project detailed sheet, this PDF sheet here that tells you everything you'll be doing for your project and how you'll be graded, I would recommend you stop the video and make sure you've read through that first and then come back to the video. I will tell you almost every point I have had to take off when grading a project came from not following a sentence somewhere in this paragraph, so make sure you read that carefully. This video is going to show you two things. It's going to show you how to use this gapminder.org website that you're going to use to collect all your data, and it's also going to show you how to create your scatter plot on Microsoft Excel. So when you go to gapminder.org, they just changed the landing site of what it looks like within the last month. So I'm re-recording a new video just in time for your project. You're going to go over here and click on resources and then scroll to the bottom of the page until you get to data and click on data. Sometimes this takes a while to load, but eventually what comes up is this browsing list of subjects. They have about 400 something subjects on every country. Take some time to browse through until you find two subjects that are of interest to you that you want to check to see if there is a correlation. Are countries that are high in one subject also high in the other? That's a positive correlation. Or are your countries that are high in one subject low in the other? That's a negative correlation. That's what you're checking to see. So you're going to go through and maybe just find some that you think are interesting to you. And when you find something that's interesting to you, click on it and it will pull up an Excel spreadsheet. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and make sure you go over to the most recent year. And then my advice to you, okay, this one, the most recent year is 2018. That's unusual to have one that recent that's that complete. I would advise you pick something more like 2016 or 2017, because when you find another subject, 2016 might be the most recent year. So if you find a subject and you pick a year and it's sparsely filled out, like lots of countries missing, don't choose that year or don't choose that subject. So you're going to choose 20 countries. Do not pick the first 20 on the alphabetized list. Have some kind of plan for why you pick what you're picking. Maybe on a separate sheet of paper, scribble down the name of the country, Afghanistan. Make sure you have the year recorded because you have to use the same year for your next subject. And then just write 0.245. That is Afghanistan's CO2 emissions for it's in tons per person, so it's in a rate. Then your next country, maybe it's Bahamas, 2016, their number was 4.73, and you write that down. And you continue that for all 20 subjects. Then you go to your next subject that you want to check for correlations with. Maybe it's aid received as a percent. And go to the same year. So make sure you scroll over to the most recent years. Hopefully this one has 2016. Okay, here we go. And the same country, Afghanistan, you're going to type or write 118. And then Bahamas was our next one. Okay, this is a good example. Bahamas has no data, so that means you have to take Bahamas off your list of the CO2 and replace it with a different country and go back and get that data. That's going to happen to you. It's no big deal. You might have to replace 3 or 4 of your countries. And then whatever your next country was, I don't know what it might have been, Belize, and 2016, 9.19, and continue until you have your second set of data. So that's how you're going to collect your data. When you have your data collected, I've already partially filled out this Excel spreadsheet. Make sure you're on the full version of Excel, not the online version. So again, if you have this bright, pretty, busy toolbar, you're on the online version. You got to get out of it. So in the A column, type what your list of country names were. And then whatever your subjects were. So if I was looking at literacy and crime rates, so make sure that you have the corresponding number next to the corresponding country, obviously. So for our last subjects on that last example, it was what? CO2 emissions. So that's what you would have there. And then your now I don't remember what our second subject was. Type your second subject there. Okay, so now when you're ready to do your graph, ignore the list of countries. That's just for your eyes and because you have to include the list of countries in your project, so you might as well type them up there and then paste them in. Left click on that first word in your data column and scroll until both columns are highlighted. Go to Insert. Again, click on Recommended Chart. Don't click anything else. Recommended Chart and choose the scatter plot that comes up. Double click. You're not done because I don't have my axes labeled. I don't have an appropriate title, and I don't have my equation. I don't have all that stuff. Just click on Chart Design. Go over here to Quick Layouts. You're going to scroll through until you find the layout that includes the following things. Labels for your axes that you can put in, and I want the regression line equation, and I want an R value. So that's why I have chosen this quick layout. Okay, now I've just got some cleanup to do. I want to move this out of the way because I can't really read it. So scoot that over. Convert these. Instead of axis title, tell your audience what those X values are. My X-axis, those are my literacy values, my literacy rates, and tell your audience what those rates were, if they were percentages or per 100,000 residents, whatever they were. Put that in there. Tell your audience what your second axis was. I can't talk and type at the same time. And then choose a title that is appropriate and make sure you put the year in the title. So literacy and crime rates for 2016. Okay. The last thing that you have to do, this quick layout only gives you R. It gives you R squared. We don't use R squared. That's not the scale you learned in this module. You were given a scale with R value, and based on the R value and where it fell on that scale, that's how you determined the type of correlation. So this is R squared. To get R, just in your calculator, do the square root of that value, but be very careful. In order to tell whether that number is positive or negative, you have to look at your equation. The A value was the slope of the line. If that is negative, then your R value is negative. You can also look at the regression line. You can see that this is a negative or downhill sloped line. So that would make a negative R value. And then whatever you got, I don't know what the square root of 536 is, but it's something close to this. Type in your R value. You are done with your graph. Paste that into your PowerPoint and continue. Now all of this is just one correlation, and you were required to do 2 correlations. You can choose the same 20 countries and you can redo one of these lists and then just choose a third subject list. Maybe it's cancer rates of some kind of cancer for the same countries for the same year. And then you would type those in and then highlight this column with whatever other column you were using and come up with your second scatter plot. Make sure you save that file because you will have to upload that file to your project sheet for it to be graded. And as always, if you have any questions, never hesitate to contact your instructor.